Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Super Mega Riftbound. Have Ghael with me. We have bands, the first official bands in Riftbound, and we are here today to talk about them a lot. Obviously, Called Shot went, but also others that maybe weren't as expected, still could have had thoughts about, but weren't fully expected. So, if you guys haven't seen yet, it's Called Shot, Draven Vanquisher, the red rare legend from Spirit Forged.
Champion, not the legend.
Champion.
The legend's still fine.
This champion, the legend's still fine. Fighter Flight, Scrap Heap, and then 3 battlefields: the Dreaming Tree, Obelisk of Power, and Reaver's Row. Ghael, start where you want to start, sir. What do you think about these?
Most of them were pretty expected. I think about 6 out of the 7 were expected for me. Red being gone, Vanquisher being gone, Cold Shot being gone, and Scrap Heap was pretty expected.
Yeah.
All the battlefields were fairly expected. They've caused problems throughout the history of Riftbound so far. So none of that was surprising. The biggest thing for me was Fighter Flight being banned. I thought was pretty absurd. I don't know if Fighter Flight deserves to be on a ban list with a card like Cold Shot as well. Everything else on that list was way more problematic than what Foff is doing. Foff is just a very versatile combat trick. I don't know if that one needed it at all, but we'll see how that shakes up. It's probably just meant to be a general hit to purple as a whole, but I don't know if that's going to really affect how purple looks in the future, because it's one of those cards that, like, hey, this is what purple does. This is part of purple's full identity. And if we don't get another similar analog card to that, I think it'll be very tough for... Not saying that, like, purple's in a bad place, but just, like, that was a...
staple.
Very... Yeah, that's like if you banned Hidden Blade out of yellow. I don't think that's something that we should be considering, is like banning these very important color identity cards. So that was pretty strange to me. And Aurora not being on the list is another big one.
That is also true. Yeah, I think Aurora and Bryn here were the two that people were surprised to not see. We kind of talked about it last week, and those being cards that were just like, Aurora is more of a ban that that affects what's going to happen in set 3, but Bryn here is also a ban that's just like to protect the future of the game, because I think I've seen a lot of people obviously have their opinions and they're tweeting about them and they're talking about them, and they're like, oh, this is just going to cause another cycle of bans of the Aurora in set 3. And sure, that's probably they're not wrong, but it's also like we have to see how it plays out before that actually happens, because that could not be true. That could just like there could be an answer to Aurora that hasn't been found yet. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think I agree with you. I don't know if Foff you deserved the ban. I think it's just one of like its color staples. I think it's one of those cards that when I hear people were talking about it, it's like, oh, did you experience like the Draven load up on 2 battlefields, Foff, and then double hit and Foff? And I'm like, that's not going to happen anymore. Like that's like Called Shot, Draven, Scrap Heap, they're all gone, so that's not going to happen anymore. I think as both of us being Aurelia players, this hits us because this was a big tool for Aurelia.
Yeah.
To be able to, one, if you needed to hold the pop your opponent's card back, or to pop your own Aurelia back, and be able to pull off some good plays. The result of this, flash prices have absolutely skyrocketed.
Yeah, glad I have
like
my playset.
Yeah, I have 2, and I think I'm happy with that. If I ever need a third, it probably would just be, hey, can I borrow one from someone? But yeah, all in all, I'm not too surprised. I was a tad bit surprised when I saw Dreaming Tree, but then I thought about it and I'm like, yeah, that it probably deserves to go. I think that draw is just super powerful. Again, both 2 of our 3 battlefields got nerfed here, Ghael. It's kind of hitting close to home here, but I mean, purple is too good. So yeah, I think
I got more of my battlefields hit for aggro Aurelia.
That's true, actually.
Because I wanted to play Reaver's Row. Reaver's Row is a good battlefield for me. So was Dreaming Tree. And then my third battlefield, which is Emperor's Dais, got absolutely hit by the changing of May triggers.
Yes.
Now May triggers are optional to go on the chain if you choose to do the effect, but then you're forced into doing the effect. So a battlefield like Emperor's Dais would not give Aurelia the trigger without actually having to do the effect. So Emperor's Dais went from like a really fantastic battlefield for Aurelia into like, nope, not playable, pretty useless.
Yeah, definitely a lot to talk about in rules changes, and we'll probably get into those more on the coming week's episode of like episode 17 that releases this Saturday. But yeah, I don't really know if there's like this was just kind of expected, but I'm curious to know your thoughts on Aurora and Bryn here also not being banned.
I think they're fine for the time being. I think it's very possible for us to just see more bans going into set 3 or like middle of set 3 to really solidify if it is a problem for the game. If
Mhm.
Brynhere and Aurora are a problem for the game in set 3, then I think the ban discussion gets opened up again. But I do think we could have a little bit of foresight and see that those cards are going to be problematic at some point, and whether that's set 3 or if that's in the future, I feel like we can just use a little bit of foreknowledge and say they
Yeah,
will be a problem in such a way they'll need to get banned. So why do we need to go through the times of trials that we're about to go through?
yeah. And something that's interesting is if you guys haven't, in the article that they released for the bands, they also released a video of one of their lead set designers talking about these bands. And they said, obviously, some of these things they're not taken lightly, but also something I wanted to say was they don't take into account what people are saying online. And I think, obviously, we all kind of expected this is what the community was talking about, but I am interested to see, like, if there is more uproar, if there is more, like, stuff like this, then it's just like, oh, this is actually like people will they listen or not? Or we just kind of like is Dreamy or not Dream Tree, it's Aurora just kind of go by the wayside until it starts winning things or whatever. So yeah, Bryn here, I was really expecting to be banned though. I really wish it was because I think it's just the next thing that's going to cause some unfavorable play patterns because if you can't get around Bryn here, you're just going to be turned off for a turn and then probably going to end up losing you the game. But yeah, other than that, Draven being banned wasn't surprising. We still have the red Draven. That was one of their big reasonings as to why they banned that one because you still can use the other one.
Yeah, you can still use Showboat, guys. You hear
Do it.
that,
Yeah.
Draven players? You get to use Showboat. Good luck.
Yeah, they're gonna be enjoying their time. I am probably not. That was sarcastic, but I wonder. We probably won't see Draven being played much anymore. I still think it's a powerful legend in and of itself. I still think the purple chosen champion is really good. Um, but other than that, really happy with what they did today. I think most of the community was satisfied. I know obviously some people didn't think there were any bans, but that's a conversation for another day. But Ghael, I'm curious, what now in result of these bans, where do you see the meta shifting? What do you think is going to be popular for Leland Atlanta?
What's popular and what's strong are always different. But I think in a
It's
lot
true.
of
I
people's
guess popular in this game is relative because of best ofs.
I think in a lot of people's minds, Irelia came out pretty high.
Mhm.
I'm less sure about that. I don't think Irelia really is going to be the next best deck in format. I think there's lots of ways to counter her, and I believe that the hits that she took were pretty noticeable
Mhm.
and pretty drastic. So I don't think Irelia will be best deck. If I had to put skin in the game, I would say Kaisa is best deck now.
Yeah, I think Kaisa got very strong. I think that again, just a very good legend ability. And we saw in set one that even though she wasn't like she was winning things, she also didn't win everything. And I think that was the case with Draven, but Called Shot and Scrappy being banned were more reasons as to because of the time it took. Kaisa is kind of just like you don't have to take much time. And I think that's what they wanted to get rid of was the being able to cycle through your entire deck and then figure and get that done. But yeah, any other thoughts on these bans? Anything else we need to talk about here?
No, not necessarily. Those are the bans. This is how the game is shaping up to be. We now have precedents for bans, so that's interesting too, going into the future.
Mhm.
We know that bans are on the table, which
Yeah.
is good to know.
Yeah, and we know that they'll change rules, which is something they stated they wouldn't do before, but obviously still
Well, they
interesting to
don't.
see.
They didn't change rules for
They
balance.
didn't change rules, but
They're not
they
changing rules for balance. They obviously change rules all the time for longevity
that's
of the
true.
game and how the game should function the clearest. And there weren't really many like
Correct.
balanced rules changes.
Yeah, no. It was more of
Just
a combat resolves, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't really read too far into that one yet, with classes, but um, yeah, those are bans. We will have more this Friday with Eli talking about these are the whole. We'll get his thoughts and we'll talk about rules. We'll talk about new cards for Unleashed now that we have the full set revealed. Lots of testing to start doing. So yeah, Ghael, I appreciate you hopping on for a
yeah.
bonus episode. We will see you guys all next week. If you haven't, go listen to episode 16 where past us, talk about these bans, but also talk about some new deck ideas and also go over the rest of the legend packages. We finally got Blue Lilia, and she's much better than Green Lilia, so that's rejoice.
Much better, yeah.
But yeah, Ghael, where can everyone find you if they don't know where to find you on the internet?
YouTube with Ghael Wins Riftbound. You can find me on Twitter with Ghael Wins with 2 S's.
Ghael Wins. And then you can find me, Limited Teddy, on Twitter, YouTube, wherever. You can find us on X at SM Riftbound, or yes, X. Now, I didn't say Twitter this time. I said X. And then TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Super Mega Riftbound. We'll see you guys next week, or this week, for episode 17.